I just wanted to ask a little more about this question because I think this is something that a lot of programs face when they're building out their digital fundraising, is that they want to make sure that they have authentic messaging, but you also have to have messaging that is going to raise money. So does anyone have examples or tactics to help balance that out?
Okay, so I'm going to speak in the context of organizing, but I have lots of ideas on fundraising that we can speak about another time. Look, I think it's nothing that is going to be a silver bullet, right? And I think that's where some campaigns or any efforts that, look, you're strapped for resources, you don't have a ton of capacity, so you're trying to find something that it can get you across the finish line in a simple way. And the reality is, just like you, people receiving information or messaging, we have to treat people with respect. People that are really bought into any issue or cause or candidate. I think the way that we try to approach it, at least at the DNC and previous programs that I oversee, is really bringing it to the people to be our messengers and our validators. That isn't necessarily tied to fundraising, perhaps, but I think it's a stronger message when it comes from someone that we trust, that we know, and being able to layer in these additional tactics that are broad swaths, like email and text messages, et cetera. But it goes back to your main point, too, which is knowing your audience. Who can you actually reach, and who is the best person to reach them, and how are they actually talking to them is the consideration and how we approach it.
Sorry, I just agree hard with that, especially with Stephen's point about the audience piece. I think that that's so critical, but I think it's also important thinking about like how you're actually talking to people. Like no one's gonna read your really, really, really long email or text message. Like thinking about like brevity, thinking about things like making sure that like you have a clear call to action and that it's not buried, or just like really small things that you can do to try to break through the noise. But like that goes hand in hand with Stephen's point about the audience. And just agree with everything that y'all said. Thank y'all. I'm learning. This is great.
Yes, co-sign all of that. I think as this last cycle emerged, 2020, we raised historic numbers. We really had really strong programs. But then in 2022, some of our traditional tactics weren't working the same way. And a lot of new ones emerged. So thinking about that, what tools and technologies made the most difference during this last cycle?
I would say, it wasn't new for this cycle, but I think it was used even more this cycle. It was Mobilize, right? Mobilize is amazing because any event, even if it's a virtual event, if it's in person, it came about, I believe, in 20, like during COVID, right?
No, it was maybe like 18 not. Actually.
18? Okay.
17, 18.
Well, it got yeah, you're right. Actually, it was 18. That's when I first saw it. But it became, there used to be you could do you could do it on Facebook, you could do Mobilize. Now it's like everything's on Mobilize. It seems like, like in terms of like what to the point where the volunteers, the super vols, use Mobilize with their friends, right? So it's no longer just the campaign creating a Mobilize link, and it's really cool because nowadays if you want to have like a staging location, for instance, right, that isn't staff but volunteer driven, they'll send a Mobilize link to all their friends, and it's really easy to use. And so I would say that was a huge, at least one thing that comes to mind over the last 4 years.